ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way, but now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at
Good afternoon. Welcome to this celebration of the life of Anna Mary Jones. Thank you so much for gathering in all the ways that we gather to honor and remember Anna today. I'm the Reverend Mary Geer, the minister for this congregation. I'm joined today by Troy Fisher, OUUC's music director, and we're grateful for Carvin Marshall at the tech desk. There are many hands that helped create this service today to honor Anna and to support this sacred space. Thank you all. We are streaming and recording the service today. We're grateful for the gift of your presence in whatever way you have arrived. It is a gift of kindness and compassion to be recognized with our gratitude. It is the practice of this congregation to light a candle or a chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. For those online, if you have a candle or a chalice, please light them along with me as we light the chalice here in the congregation. With this flame, we honor the spirit of the North, the earth that holds us and nurtures all life. We honor the spirit of the East, the air that we breathe and that connects us to each other. We honor the spirit of the South, the fire that burns in our sun and that is the spark of life within each of us. And we honor the spirit of the West, the water that flows through our bodies and the body of our earth, sustaining all life. We honor the spirits above us and below us, and may we know that we are surrounded and held in love. We gather here today to grieve the loss of Anna Jones, a mother, sister, cousin, friend. Today, may we be grateful for the love that she left, knowing that we grieve only when we have loved. Anna died on October 27th at the age of 75. She lived for many years with cognitive decline and other health issues, and she was lovingly cared for by her son, Aaron, and died peacefully at home with hospice care. Today, may we remember Anna's wholeness and the beauty of her spirit as we acknowledge the reality of her dying. Every one of us here is acquainted with the grief that loss brings, and so today we feel compassion for each other, united in our humanity. May we be united also in the conviction that the flames of life and love are never extinguished, but live on through us.
The science of death. Understand the conservation of energy to understand that Anna's energy has not died. The first law of thermodynamics is that no energy gets created in the universe and none is destroyed. All her energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was Anna remains with us in this world. Amid energies of the cosmos, she gave as good as she got. All the photons that ever bounced off of her face, all the particles that were interrupted by her smile, by the touch of her hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways forever changed by you. You can understand that the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that were her eyes, that those photons created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons whose energy will go on forever. Her energy is still around. According to the law of the conservation of energy, not a bit of her is gone. She's just less orderly.
I am the daughter of the ancient mother. I am the child of the mother of the world. I am the daughter of the ancient mother. I am the child of the mother of the world. Oh, Inanna, oh, Inanna, oh, Inanna. It is you who teaches us to die, be reborn, and rise again. of the ancient mother. I am the child of the mother of the world. Oh, Inanna, oh, Inanna, oh, Inanna. It is you who teaches us to die, be reborn and rise again. Die, be reborn and rise again. Die, be reborn and rise.
Hello, I'm Aaron Hobbs. Anna Jones was my mother, and I wanted to start out by saying thank you for joining us today to honor her and remember her, and thank you to the Unitarian Universalist Church and everyone who's here to help in any way, shape, or form with that today. She absolutely loved being a part of the Unitarian Church. One of my first memories of her is about 6 or so in California at the Walnut Creek Unitarian Universalist Church, where we were making anti-nuclear war signs and bumper stickers for a protest that was coming up at the Lawrence Livermore Lab, which was about half an hour away, where there were nukes. And yeah, I thought I was an incredible artist. I colored a bumper sticker black, and in my poetic 6-year-old voice wrote on there in a silver pen, "After nuclear war, these will be the only colors left." I'm not sure if it was used in the protest, but it felt wonderful to be a part of something like that, to see the movement, the care, the values represented by those people there today working on something like that. As far as values and as far as my mom, I was thinking about what to say today. I brought note cards, with some bullets, and I tried writing it out a few different times. And wow, how do you sum up a person in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever? Which parts do you put in? Which parts do you leave out? Which parts are good or bad when there's nothing good or bad but thinking makes it so? So, someone wise told me, what is the story you want to tell? And that made it a little simpler. So I'd like to tell you about my mom. And I'll start with values. My dad always said, some people have 6 bookshelves and some people have 12 bookshelves. And no matter how many books you give them, they only have 6 bookshelves. They're not going to be able to process that information. Well, I don't know if I think that's true. There are Albert Einsteins and there are folks that might have a hard time processing any information. So maybe it's true on some level, but I think for the vast majority of us, we learn about what we value and we retain the information about what we value. And I wore a piece of my mom's jewelry today, and I'll tell you, start the values with that. This I found in a mesh bag, hadn't been worn yet, and it had a note card that described how it was made by a Tibetan refugee in Nepal, and that half of the proceeds from this bracelet would go directly to that person, and a fair trade certificate that went along with it. That was absolutely at the core of my mom's values, was to help any underdog in the world. You heard the song that was just playing, The Goddess. That was, I'm jumping ahead a little. Let's go back to, no, let's stay there. Okay, so my mother was raised, I don't want to cover your early parts already, but she was born in Wyoming in 1948 in a town of 140 people, Mormon. And so she was raised Mormon. Well, that didn't work out so well. There's things that don't go so well with that. And she ended up always wanting something to be there, some cosmic connection, some universal connection. And for her, it was in the goddess of fertility, protection of women and children, and in love for all beings. And that is why that type of music was what I grew up listening to and always heard around her. It symbolized what she wanted more of, the divine feminine, the support of women, the celebration of women, the protection of women, for some obvious reasons. That's what was needed in her life. And I'm so glad that she found it and that she found connection with the Unitarian Church and the people who come here. She spoke very fondly of everyone that she met here, of this I believe part of Unitarianism. She loved teaching a class called Cakes for the Queen of Heaven. She loved a group called the Women's Summer Solstice, which was only women that went on a big, awesome camping trip with beautiful, all kinds of cool tents and ceremonies and celebrations and fires and healing. Because, as we all know, she was an ally to every underdog, and traditionally, women are an underdog in the cultures that we come from. And she wanted to be healing women, being healed by women, protecting women, having women protect each other. Because you can't really have one without the other. Divinely. And so she found great solace and great joy in that celebration and worship of the goddess. She was a staunch anti-war pacifist. There is some Quaker ancestry in her family, and as we know, Quakers are pacifists, but also on her own. She just really wasn't down with violence. Being in San Francisco and Berkeley in the 1960s and 70s, she was right in the center of it. That's where her and my dad met, in the anti-war movement, civil rights movement, women's rights movement, and she kept those values and championed those values throughout her life. And thankfully, those values were instilled in me as well. What else? Reading. Oh, she loved reading. She read so many books. Speaking of bookshelves, her and my dad have both read about the same, probably about 3,000. I know because I carried hers when it was time to get rid of them. But boy, she had thousands of books, mostly spirituality, romance, and fantasy. She loved magic. She loved the idea of magic, of there being something more, of there being an intangible and perhaps malleable or mutable force that we could somehow affect the course of our reality with, or be a part of, something bigger than us. I'm a born and will die proudly atheist. However, I respect that very much about her. And because of that, I enjoyed learning about the myths and legends and spiritualities of people from around the world. What else? There were a few others. I should have had all my note cards ready, because I just don't want to leave anything out. And I'll talk a little bit about specific memories, and I'll try and keep it brief after Hannah Lynn does her early childhood, but I just wanted to make sure I covered the big ones. Reader, allied to the underdog, healer. She embodied healing very much. She started doing shiatsu massage when I was about 8 or 9, and I remember receiving it, and I, of course, was like, ow, I don't know, I like it, but ow. And my stepdad at the time, who was a construction worker, would just, oh, man. So I could tell it was working. And she did Reiki or shiatsu for a number of years, and as you know, it takes a lot of pressure, a lot of physicality. So later in life, she took on Reiki and doing energy healing with people. She really, really, really wanted healing and wanted others to experience that healing. And I think that is a very noble thing about her. I actually became a massage therapist for a few years in Florida when I was down there. And in large part, it was inspired by that idea that, is there something I can do to help with? Because life does involve a lot of suffering, including physical. And maybe I can't fix everything, but maybe I can help fix somebody today. she was wonderful in that way. She really wanted people to be as supported and empowered as possible. She embodied kindness. She was very, very kind. One of my first memories of coming off a football game, and all the cheerleaders ran up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, your mom is so nice. She's so nice and she's so beautiful." And, you know, as any 16-year-old boy, I had a crush on all the cheerleaders, and I was so honored and happy that they thought so, that my mom was so cool to them. She really went out of her way to be as kind. Actually, no. It was in her nature to be as kind as possible to everyone. She, as I said earlier, she wasn't down with war, she wasn't down with violence, she wasn't even really down with anger that much. She just wanted to be kind and wanted other people to be kind as well. Welcome. Let's see. Peace, I covered that. Staunch pacifist. Almost violent in her adherence to pacifism. The only thing that gave her a bit of trouble with that was Trump at the end there. She would get pretty pissed, but she still didn't advocate violence for it. And yeah, oh man, another thing. She was a big baker. She loved baking. Part of our kind of peasant Irish history, you know, wheat. That's a dependable crop. It's going to be around, and nobody just wants to eat a big bowl of it. So she figured out and passed on all the ways that you could make it tasty and filling. Snickerdoodle cookies were her favorite, and she loved to make those. Chocolate chip cookies, breads, biscuits, and she has a box of recipes out there that you can look at that are all 50 to 100 years old, you know, and passed on through the generations of what you can do with flour to make it fun for kids and adults. So many baking supplies, so many little cups, pans. We have a 4-cup measuring cup, a 2-cup measuring cup, the whole deal. What else did she really like? She loved the beautiful things in nature. I could never really get her to go hiking or camping with me and get all dirty and wet and stinky, but she loved flowers. She loved beautiful trees. She liked seeing deer. She really didn't care to have an animal in the house, and that's fine. Men are enough. What else? Let's see, that's a pretty good overview. She could be a little ornery and stubborn, pioneer stock, you know, up there in the mountains of Wyoming. She definitely could, she was nonviolent, but she'd give you a piece of her mind, and she could sure criticize something if it wasn't that good. Her mom had been famously one of the most intelligent women and accomplished women in Wyoming history, riding a horse to a nearby town to do high school and getting a college scholarship and becoming a professor in Wyoming and taking students to study Latin and Rome and Greece. So although she idolized and loved dearly her mother, she also told me sometimes she made her feel stupid. And I would try to get her to explain her thoughts on things. And sometimes she'd say, well, let me consult a paper I wrote about that in college. And I'd say, well, I just want to know what you think right now. And she's like, well, let me tell you about my mom. So she wanted to make sure she had her facts there. Sometimes she could be kind of soft-spoken and a little nervous, but boy, that fire was in there. Yeah. And I guess lastly, it was an honor and a pleasure to take care of her the past 4 years. There were many years where we were not very geographically close. And I know that was unfortunately harder on her than on me. And my only regret there is that I'd have come back sooner. But the last 4 years were some of the happiest years we spent together, when she couldn't really remember the things that had made her sad in life. And we just got to laugh and play and have a good time and make silly jokes. And I think she was pretty happy. more happy than I'd seen her in those last 4 years. So, yeah, but she was wonderful. She was a very good person, and a kind person, and a loving person. And, yeah, I'm glad you all got to know her, and I wanted to say thank you, especially to the friends who spent time with her at all, or made her feel welcome, or listened to her, you know, when I wasn't there. And I'm just so glad she had friends and a community and things to be excited and happy about. So that's an overview of my mom, a woman of many names. Mary Alice Simpson, Mary Alice Hobbs, Mary Alice Simpson Novelloso, and then reborn as Anna Marie Jones. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, we're going to talk about remembering our childhood. Like Aaron said, we kids were all born in a high mountain valley in Wyoming called Star Valley. Our town boasted the population of, actually it was only 120. Mom was a school teacher, Dad was an aircraft mechanic. They were extremely loving, intelligent, and affectionate parents. There lived our extended Hepworth family from Mom's side, one of whom is our beloved George, who is here with us today. There was plenty of snow to go around there. It snowed up to your second-story window. One joke said, "What's a Star Valley summer? 2 weeks of bad sledding." Mary Alice, as we called her then, was a sweet and beloved child. Always the practical one. Mom planned us 4 years apart so they could pay for one college education before taking on another and another. John is the oldest, Mary Alice was in the middle, and I was the baby. I'll tell you about how loving and funny our family was. On one of my earliest adventures when I was a baby, John and Mary Alice decided to fool our babysitter. They told her I had sucked a button into my nose. While Mrs. Peterson was fussing over me and crying, they were hiding behind the door, giggling. Finally, they explained it was a prank, but poor Mrs. Peterson, they loved telling me that story. When I was 6 months old at Christmas time, they made a nativity enactment. John was dressed as Joseph, Mary Alice as Mary, of course, and they had great fun swaddling me and putting me in the cradle as baby Jesus. Mary Alice conflated the terms stable and temple and called it a stemple. It's been a stemple from that day forward. When she was about 4 years old, I hope this is okay for appropriateness here. When she was about 4 years old, our mom was trying to get her to use proper vocabulary for her bodily functions. She told her to say urinate instead of pee-pee. But Mary Alice wouldn't do it. She kept saying no, and Mom kept saying, "Come on, honey, say urinate. Come on, dear, you could do it. Say urinate." Mary Alice continued to resist. Finally, she stomped her little foot and said, "All right, I'm an 8." Sharing a room and a bed as little girls, one of the things we loved to do is stand on the bed as one of us said, "Good night, cow," and the other said, "Good night, horse," and then we'd say, "Yee, oomph," and fall on the bed, squealing with laughter. As you will see in the slideshow later, Mary Alice and I had a ton of fun with dolls. Our mom made lovely little clothes for them. We loved playing together so much that if one of us were sick, we'd contrive for the other one to suddenly have the same symptoms so we could stay home and play paper dolls. We would take Bonnie and Penny to the kitchen and to the sink to wash dishes, And we would pretend like they were looking at the works of a huge factory. And I have 2 of those dolls still. Mary Alice and I took Kleenex boxes and made letter boxes and taped them to our bedroom door. We would place love letters to each other in the mailboxes. When I was celebrating my 30th birthday and hadn't seen her for quite a while, she brought me a tiny little Hello Kitty mailbox with tiny little love letters. I have adored Hello Kitty ever since. One thing about Mary Alice, you'd have to be careful if you took her to a body of water. Every time we went on vacation to a body of water, she would fall in. She fell into Wyoming rivers, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. The list goes on, but she'd always get rescued and come up sputtering and being a good sport about it. When Mary Alice turned 6 and I turned 2, we moved to Ohio so Dad could get more work in aircraft. Mom continued to teach Latin and English for a total of 37 years. Mom was our teacher, and a better teacher has never been found. She taught both John and Mary Alice in high school Latin. She had me translate Latin for half an hour every night. It gave us a vast memory of root words and of going to Latin banquet every year as a family. Mom would be Juno, Dad Jupiter, Mary Alice Athena, and I was either Cupid or Hebe. John was Apollo. You'll see us dressed up in the slideshow. We moved to Indianapolis when Mary Alice was a junior. John was already at UCLA and I was a sophomore. During high school, because our dad was a pilot and mechanic, he built us our own plane from a kit. Seriously, and flew us around in it. Mary Alice was interested in flying and joined the high school version of cadets of the Civil Air Patrol. So look for a picture of her in the airplane in the slideshow. She was always a very good student. When she graduated, she went off to Antioch College, a very progressive liberal arts school. When I was 14, she asked me to come visit there. Wow, was I in for an awakening. It was the 60s and things were really happening. I was so excited to be on a college campus with my beautiful sis during such a cool time in history. Although by this time I was 5'10" to her 5'6", she always introduced me as her little sister while looking up into my face lovingly. As a young adult, Mary Alice fully participated in the counterculture and anti-war movement. She attended the March on Washington. Later, she attended the Institute for the Study of Nonviolence, held by Joan Baez and David Harris, who spearheaded the draft resistance movement. There she met David Hobbs. They married and had our lovely Erin. And from there, I will let Erin take over.
Well, I don't really remember the next couple of years, but my folks lived in San Francisco and on Castro Street, and this would have been in 76, 77, 78, and then they split up. They weren't perfect for each other, you know. They gave it a try, and my mom needed to make sure that she just preserved herself. And that's not, my dad wasn't a violent man, but he's wonderful, but he's also, like everybody, can be a challenge, and my mom needed something different, so she needed to go on her own for a while. And then my first memories of her are 5 and 6, like I told you, of the Unitarian Church. And when she remarried my stepdad at the time, who was Ernesto Novolozo, from a Filipino Mormon family from Utah, in San Francisco, California, is where they met when she was working at Dinwoody Construction as a administrative assistant, you know. And I remember visiting her there once and thinking, these guys are, it's funny. I think I was like 5 or 6 years old and thinking like, these guys are looking at my mom. I can still remember that. As you can tell, my mom was a very beautiful person from a very early age. And yeah, so thankfully she passed that on to me. But I can attest to that. It does not guarantee happiness or good fortune. It's just the way you're born. And I would say that after that, she lived in Pleasant Hill, California, Fremont, California. She kind of gave up the career to help raise the 4 step children that came into the picture with the second husband. And then they split up around when I was 12, so that would have been in 88. And then she just wanted to stay near me after that. So I was getting ready to go to high school, or going to high school at the time, and she moved and got a place that was in the proper school district, because my dad got a place in a that was just past the boundary line of the high school they wanted me to go to, so I could have the best chance at the future, right? Well, they found out, because I didn't know how to cover things up that well when I was that young, and I told the proper address when I had to talk about it one time, and then I got called in the office, and then my mom kind of saved the day by kind of going out of her means to get an apartment in the school district that would keep me where I was going. So she always put me first. I found a journal of hers that said, what are my values? What's most important to me? And number 1 was Erin. So, I mean, she was always very loving, very, very very, very happy to be my mom, and very thankful of that. One thing I forgot to say about beauty, my mom really loved beauty. She loved accessorizing. I don't know if any of you guys remember how much she loved having like the sweater that went with the shirt, that went with the pants and the belt and the shoes. And she wasn't ever rich. She didn't buy diamonds or gold, but she loved the maroon in this that matches the maroon here and the maroon on this shirt. And she loved helping other women feel beautiful. So she became a Mary Kay seller, and she loved going and talking with women and helping them figure out which colors work best and how to feel the best. She wanted them to be empowered and feel as good about themselves as possible, and that was just a wonderful thing about her. What else? Let's see. After high school, I went to UC Santa Barbara. She came up here around, I want to say around 96. I actually don't remember the exact day, because I was off at college doing what college boys do when they're 18 or 19, which is pretty much like, oh my gosh, girls. And then she lived here in the Nisqually area. That was really beautiful. I came up to stay with her in 2000 after school, kind of see, well, all right, well, what's going on with you? What's going on with the Northwest? And she was in Nisqually. And she was there for a bit, and then we moved her to another place. At that point, she worked she worked for the Department of Natural Resources in Tacoma. Is that? Yeah. And then she ended up working for the Department of Natural Resources here in Olympia for the last 10 years of her career. So she, a lot of administrative assisting, editing, proofreading. Yeah. And she really liked that, actually. She was really proud of it. She thought she was an excellent proofreader, editor. And sometimes she said she was a supervisor. I'm not sure if that was totally true. She could embellish just a wee bit, as we all do. But yeah. What else? So then she retired in maybe 60. No, when she was 65, so maybe about 10 years ago. And yeah, and I came back in 2020. I think I covered all the good points, and maybe 1 or 2 bad points. I don't think I need to bring any more up. But it was just, it was wonderful to be with her. Oh, if anybody's curious, she had dementia and cognitive decline, so she couldn't really find the words to express herself. She could somewhat understand the words that someone else was using, to describe things to her. But it was interesting. By the end, she would have these like go-to words that could mean many, many different things. And one was pants. You know, you got to go out and you got to get your pants, and then everybody goes and they get their pants and they go do what they're going to do. Pants. And so pants worked for a lot of things, but there were two, and that one's kind of funny, but then two that really stood out, two that she would say all the time. Even I couldn't tell exactly what she was talking about, but it would be, you know, in the family. And you got to go, and then you got to see the family, and then you'd go over here, and it's something about the family. So it was always on her mind, the family, her relations. She would speak about Wyoming, speak about like going home, and babies. That was the last one. She would always say, you know, okay, it's the babies, and oh, it's the babies. And I'm sure in large part, you know, she was thinking about all of us babies, but also of your grandchildren, which she loved to see the videos of. And it was always on her mind, the people and the loved ones and the full circle of life. Yeah, but that wasn't very specific and to the point. But anybody have any questions about my mom? Question and answer period? Good time to stop? I think so too. Thanks.
Thank you. These are the words of Anna's longtime friend, Loretta Sylvester. My friend and sister of the heart, Anna Jones, died today. Like all people, she was unique, complicated, and beautiful. She loved her family as well as all things spiritual, or Scottish, or romantic, or fashionable, and tea and dark chocolate and shortbread and the Rice Krispie wreaths she made at Christmas every year. She couldn't pass up a book sale and couldn't let go of a book. She loved cats but not dogs. Nothing made her smile brighter than pictures of her great nephews. When I went through a long illness, she was the only friend who visited. She gave me clothes when I'd lost so much weight my own fell off of me. She drove me to my appointments when I suffered from vertigo and double vision. And when I had a kidney stone, she took me to urgent care and stayed there with me all day long. We went to Highland Games and Ren Fair and Gay Pride and concerts at a funky local cafe. Anna had a quirky personality, and that made it hard to tell when Alzheimer's dementia first began to take hold. She never failed to recognize me, even when her condition became extreme. I saw her on Sunday. She held my hand, her grip strong. She had stopped speaking, but when I was ready to leave, I told her I'd see her soon. And she said one word very clearly, November. What did she mean? I don't know. I will miss her. There are many stories and memories of Anna here with us today. We'll make some time to hear some of them now. George, would you like to come up and speak?
Hello, my name is George Hepworth. I'm Mary Alice Anna's cousin. I told Ann Lynn earlier today that I was worried that I would not have time to tell you everything I wanted to say about my cousin. Fortunately, the two of them have covered all the important points, so I'm off the hook. I want to tell you a little bit about the beginning and a little bit about the end, and the part in the middle, fortunately, I don't have to go into. We were born 11 months apart in a very small town in southwest Wyoming, which was always home. Even today, 74 years later, it's my home. And I think that's shared. One of the things about growing up in a town like that is that everybody around you is either a cousin or an uncle or an aunt. And if they're not, they're a little more distant relative. And so we grew up in the center of this very close, very committed family. I have a picture, and I think Hannah Lynn's probably seen it. I don't know if Aaron has, but there are 5 little children, myself and 4, my sister and 3 girl cousins. That's 5. And then there's an older cousin, a teenager, off to one side. We were on the banks of a river making mud pies, the 5 little kids. And I've always looked at that and remembered what a great time that was. But it always puzzled me until just recently when I was looking at it again, thinking about today, why her brother, John, was actually slightly to one side and slightly behind us, looking as bored as only a teenager can look. And it finally dawned on me, looking at him, he was there. He was watching over his sisters because they were next to this river. And he was afraid for his sisters. And so even though he was terribly bored, he was there looking out for his family. And I think that's sort of epitomizes the environment that we grew up in. So I will skip ahead because the rest of it's been covered. Towards the end, Anna moved back. She had changed her name to Anna. I will tell you that part. When the news filtered to us that she had changed her name, there was a lot of consternation, a lot of questions, what had happened and why. And I felt the need to write her a letter. I had to reach out and tell her how I felt. And the words were different. I can't repeat the words after this long, but I wanted to let her know that whatever had led her to that decision, she must have had very powerful reasons, and no matter what anybody else thought, if she needed to do that, that was the right thing. And that I still had a cousin, it's just that her name was Anna instead of Mary. And that was important. I found out many, many years later, after she had moved to, she was living in Olympia at the time, and I had moved back to Washington. She thanked me for that letter. This was many, many years later. And I realized how much it meant to her that her family, at least some part of her family, was there at that time. And so I've always been grateful that I did write that letter, even though I, at the time, didn't know that it would be that important. But then the next thing that happened is because we were close physically, I was able to spend more time. We talked on the phone at first, and then I started coming down to Olympia to visit, and we were able to spend more time together. We went to the Tacoma Art Museum. We went to the farmer's market. We went to every one of her favorite Thai restaurants in Olympia. And in that period of time, we reforged those ties. Anna decided that she wanted to go with me to our family reunion in Wyoming. And my brothers and sisters and I have had that tradition of going back home for a weekend in the summer every year for as long as I can remember. And we go and spend 3 days roasting weenies and burning marshmallows and telling the same old stories and singing the same old songs. And she wanted to go, and so we drove, and that was wonderful. One of the things that came out of that is if you really want to know someone or get reacquainted with someone after a long separation, 16 hours in a car, driving across southern Idaho where there are no FM, AM radio stations, you get to talk a lot, over and back. And that was when she told me a lot of the stories about the life in the middle years. I think of them as the middle years that led me to understand her a lot better. But it was also in those car rides and those weekends that I realized she had stepped onto that same dark path that took her mother and our grandmother. And so I didn't want to do this, but I am going to. I was grateful that I was physically here to be that part of her family that was close to her in the time when she needed family close to her. So people ask me, why did you spend so much time with your cousin? You know, she's your cousin. That's not your responsibility. And I used to tell people, well, it's family. It's just family. And now I know. It's family, but it's family that's close, that she could look in my face and hear my voice and be connected to the rest of her family. And then Aaron came and spent the last 4 years. And he was able to fill that role in a much more important way than I ever could. But he was there for the last years and the last months and the last weeks and the last days. And Anna could look up at his face and see her family close to her, with her. And that means more to me and to my family than I can ever express. And I hope at some point he will appreciate or understand, well, maybe now you understand why that was so important, to be able to look in your face and know that you were there. And I would ask you to remember her the way her brother and her son and her sister described her: caring, compassionate, wise, loving, well-read, a joy to be around. Thank you.
For those who are online with us today, I invite you to share a quality or a memory of Anna. You can write that in the chat, and we'll be sure to share it with the family. Thank you so much for your remembrances. These are some images of Anna's life that were lovingly compiled by her sister, Hannah Lynn Demerson. Our grief is a holy thing. It is a proof that another life touched ours in a profound way. It's a mark of love, a mark of connection, and a mark of a life well lived. As we mourn and miss Anna, Mary Alice, a bit of music or a smell will remind us of her, and our memories will all come back. Those moments, too, are holy. They're reminders of the connection that will never fully go away. It's important to hold on to that connection because it is through us and through those memories that Anna lives on. Hold on to the memories that we shared today. Tell the stories that make you smile, the stories that make you laugh. Share the memories with people who knew Anna and those people who didn't. And may they remind you of the beauty in Anna's life and the beauty that she created and her connection to us and all that is. We'll extinguish our chalice with these words from Kenneth Collier titled, "What I Know." I do not know where we go when we die, and I do not know what the soul is, or what death is, or when, or why. What I know is that a song once sung cannot be unsung, and that a life once lived cannot be unlived, and that love once loved cannot be unloved. We give thanks for the life of Anna Mary Jones. May her spirit know peace, and may healing come to the hearts of those who mourn her passing. May we feel the love that holds us in the cycle of life and never lets us go. May peace be with us this day. For those online, thank you for your presence. May you go in peace. And for those here on site, you're invited outside to the columbarium where we will commit Anna's ashes. And if you prefer, you can stay inside in the commons and we'll join you there shortly. Thank you all.
Grandmothers weaving the rainbow, grandmothers weaving the light, grandmothers weaving the rainbow, weaving the threads of my life. Guide me on my spirit journey. 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 Grandmothers, make my way sacred, lead me on the path of light. Grandmothers, awaken wisdom, help me on my spirit flight. Guide me on my spirit journey. 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 Mothers, women of wisdom, dance your sacred dance of life. Sing your sacred songs of beauty. Help me on my spirit flight.